Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about that crazy game. Manchester City 3, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Dejan Kulusevski in the last minute, grabbing Tottenham Hotspur a point. Now, if you're watching this stream on YouTube, please do get involved. Give us your thoughts on today's game and we'll put as many on screen as possible and talk about the points that you are raising. And do remember that all editions of this Spurs Chat podcast are uploaded to all audio platforms. So let's get straight into it. I've got three very special guests with me as usual. I've got channel regular Craig Dearman back with me. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, just unbelievable game. Unbelievable game. City must hate us. They must absolutely hate us. And Pep particularly. It's just unbelievable. The game's up there, the game's at our place. It's just incredible. But what a fighting spirit today. I'm really looking forward to discussing this game.
We've also got channel regular Craig McGuinness back with us, of course, UEFA licensed football coach. Gareth, how are you?
Gareth.
Craig McGuinness, that's a new one.
Craig, Gareth, I tell you, from what I've just said, I can't even concentrate.
Oh, crazy game.
Don't worry, Derek.
Crazy game, Chris. So I'm not surprised that your head's a wee bit away with yourself. But no, I mean, Chris, that's the football we want to see. I mean, how many times have I met you for the last couple of years at the games? And, you know, for me, I don't get to go as many games loving in Ireland. But, I mean, you know, this season I've been over a few times and it's just been totally different. And even when, like, the last few games we haven't got the results, but we've been playing well. And, you know, today was just fantastic. That's the football we want to see. I was delighted to see the way we approached the game. And do you know what? It's risk and reward football. And we haven't had that reward over the last few games, but we definitely got it today.
I love when we get a good result, the guests, even when I just try to introduce them, they can't wait to talk about the game. Now, someone who's got to get names right, and that, of course, is Jamie McKenna, actor. Jamie, you gave us some great news yesterday. Of course, the last couple of years you spent time on Coronation Street. But you had some major news yesterday. You've just joined the cast of House of the Dragon, a prequel. I can't even get my words out. A prequel to Game of Thrones. Congratulations. How are you? And tell us all about this new project.
Oh,
he's gone. Right, let's get straight into it. Manchester City 3, Tottenham Hotspur 3. We will get Jamie back at some point. Of course, Heung-min Son put Spurs 1-0 up after 6 minutes. Heung-min Son then put the ball in his own net after 9 minutes. Phil Foden then put Manchester City 2-1 up after 31 minutes. Lo Celso equalised for Spurs in the second half in the 69th minute. Jack Grealish then put City 3-2 up. And then Dejan Kulusevski in the 90th minute, ending 3-3. Now, the match stats from today's game, Manchester City with 55% possession to Tottenham's 45%. City had 18 shots to Tottenham's 8. Shots on target, 4 apiece. Corners, City had 10 to Tottenham's 8. Fouls, 14 each. After the game, Dejan Kulusevski said we wanted to win this. Heung-min Son said we keep believing and we are proud of our performance today. Craig, let's start today's show with you. That was a crazy game. And as you've already said, City must absolutely hate playing Tottenham Hotspur. We always seem to get a result. And I tell you what, I'm feeling extremely proud of our football club today because when you think of Ange saying, you know, he's not going to change the way that he plays. That is the way that he plays. We've got so many injuries. Of course, Romero still suspended. Romero, of course, will be back for Thursday's game. But under the circumstances, what a performance and what a result.
Yeah, totally. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, even me, loves the football we've been playing under Ange, and as much as I want to see us attack, and not change philosophies, I did think today that he might tweak it a little bit, and he did in the second half, of course. But, you know, it was just lovely to see that it just goes to prove that they're actually buying into it and things are changing at Tottenham, because if we'd gone into that game, I'm convinced this, if we'd gone into that game under a Conte side, with those players, I think we would have royally lost that game today. And we didn't. We had a go, and we did exactly what he said we would do. And, you know, you're without your first choice centre-backs, 2 of them. You're without your first choice 2 centre midfielders. It's just a phenomenal performance. First half was a bit scrappy, and there were points in the second half when things were scrappy. I'm sure we'll come on to the points, Bissouma giving the ball away, which led to their goal, but it just goes to show we never ever give up. And that last minute goal by Kulusevski had reminded me a little bit of the Harry Kane header, even though that was to win it. When we won 3-2, it was very similar to that. And like I said, they must absolutely despise Tottenham coming to their ground or them coming to us, because there's something about us and City, and we've got the upper hand on them somehow. I don't know. It's weird. These matches, these teams, every team has a bogey team, and we are Manchester City. So, long may that continue.
Jamie, are you back with us? He's
No.
not.
No.
Gareth, let's come to you because I'll tell you what, many Spurs fans today and this last week have been dreading this game. And when you think about it, I think an honest assessment would be to say that Manchester City weren't at their best today. Spurs had so many injury problems. Anne's come out and said, no, this is the way we're going to play. This is what we're going to do. We're not changing for anyone. And this is how I set up. End of. I'm feeling proud. How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, Chris, I actually put out before the game, or if it was last night, I says that even with all the players missing, I go into this game in more confidence than I did under previous managers going there with a full strength team. And I think that, as a coach, myself, sometimes you'll be missing players for games, but if you have a squad that's buying into your style of play, that's much more valuable than individual players. And for far too long at Spurs, we've been playing with individual players, relying on Kane or Son to do something magic. Today was a team performance. You couldn't. I know some players made mistakes, but everybody's, even the games we've lost recently, everyone's been given 100%. It was at the Chelsea game, we clapped them off the pitch. The Villa game last week, even after that, deflated about the result, but the performance you couldn't have asked anymore. We just couldn't put the ball in the net. A couple of offsides, it didn't go our way. So this season's been totally different. We aren't relying on one player. Of course, individuals can make a difference, but this is a team at the minute that it doesn't matter what type of starting 11 we put out. For me, I'm always confident of getting a result, and today, of course, it was going to be tough going to Man City, but I had every confidence that we were going to get a result. And maybe that's being a little bit biased, or my Tottenham hat on, but I just believe in our style of play now and believe what Ange is building, that I see us as favourites in every game. Of course, there's more difficult ones, but even when we went to Arsenal at the start of the season, I had every faith we'd walk away with a result, and that is the difference to the month, Chris.
Gareth, doesn't that feel so good though? Because without naming names, I think you know who I mean. Previous managers, they would have shouted and whinged about all of these injury problems, but Ange expects the team, no matter what clientele he's putting out on the pitch, that starting 11, he expects exactly the same and wants to play exactly the same way.
Well, I mean that's what a coach is supposed to do. I've said for the last 3 or 4 years that we've had managers that despite having great records at all our clubs, they rely on having a lot of money to spend, buying the best players, and then organising them and the teams that maybe when they go 1-0 up can see out games, and that's just not how Spurs are. Great if we had won something, but it was never sustainable. That's why you see the likes of Conte, Mourinho, they're only there 3 or 4, 3 seasons max, and then it breaks down because there's no longevity in it. With Ange, you can see him, you can see Ange doing what Klopp and Pep has done at Man City and Liverpool. You could see him being here for a long time. One, because the fans love him, and two, because I can only see this Spurs side getting better, Chris. They do what he's done in such a short space of time, and for me this season, I just wanted to see us play football, build the side. But I mean, I think we're so far ahead of where we're supposed to be, and Ange from day dot has said that it's going to be held way. And everybody's buying into it, and it's not just the Spurs fans. I've even a lot of my friends over here in Ireland are Liverpool fans, and they can't say a bad word about Spurs because they're a great watch.
I think we've finally got actor Jamie Kenna with us. Jamie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, sorry about that. Literally, I put a 10-foot inflatable Santa in the garden today, and the outside Christmas lights, and I think I've knocked the dish, the Wi-Fi. I don't know. I've knocked everything off. So. But luckily I was able to watch that game. So yes, I'm here about the technical issues.
Jamie, before we get into the football, I was talking about your news, your fantastic news yesterday that you announced about joining the cast of House of the Dragon. Tell us all about that, and many congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, because last time I was on, you were like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, I can't. I've had to sit on this news. I've been filming it since April. Finished filming at the end of September, and then I've just had to keep my mouth shut until now. Still can't say loads. I can't say too much about stories. I've got lots of pictures I can't release and stuff, but I can confirm, that I am in the new season of House of the Dragon, which is amazing, which is phenomenal. I don't know if you saw the teaser trailer yesterday.
I did.
It's pretty epic. It's it's been a load of fun filming it, and I think it's just gonna look amazing. I can't wait for everyone to see it. So yeah.
And that's out next summer, is that right?
Yeah, it's out. I think or July, August 24. They've got so much work to do on it because it's so much, CGI stuff and so much post production on it. So it takes pretty much a year to get it up and running. But I think it's gonna be worth the wait. It's some phenomenal performances in it from what I've seen, and it's gonna look massive. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, Jamie, let's talk about today's game. As I said to Craig and Gareth when I got their names right, 3-3 today. What a game! What a performance! A point. Ange Postecoglou said that he wasn't going to change the way he does things, and that certainly proved valuable today, getting a point at Manchester City. And I said earlier that really Spurs could have went on to win that game today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously fuming we haven't. No, I'm joking. I said to my son, we were driving earlier, I was like, I will bite your hand off for a point today. I couldn't really see how we'd stem the flow. I couldn't see how we would deal necessarily, with essentially 4 fullbacks playing, how we deal with your Haalands and all that. But I just think, just phenomenal. I love the philosophy. I was on here when we were top of the league and unbeaten. I'm now here off the back of, 3 defeats and a draw. And I'm still maintaining that the man's so good for us, so good for our club. He absolutely had me after that Chelsea game where in his press conference he turned around and said, if we go down to 5 men, we'll still have a go. And that's what he's done today. And do you know what I actually love today is that I know he stuck to his guns, and there are, in commentary, they were kind of talking about, is it kind of stubbornness? Is it a bit of stupidity? And there might be an element of that, but that's the way he wants to play. That's how he wants us to play. I'd rather watch it. I'd rather watch that than a Mourinho, Conte side where you've got a load of miserable players with no identity. I'd much rather see that. But then when he made that change, when he brought Højbjerg on, I thought that was intelligent. He still wanted us to go forward, but he's not prepared to compromise what is a natural thing. Brian Gill looked out of his depth. I think he looks like he's got potential. He needs to fill out a little bit, get a bit of man strength. But the game was a little bit beyond him, I thought. Although his pass for the goal was unbelievable. But yeah, Ange still says he still showed that he's a good tactician. He's a top manager and he knows what he's doing. So I thought it was a cracking game. Cracking. I mean, what a game to watch on a Sunday afternoon. I'd rather watch that all day long, than us limping over the line or parking the bus and losing 1-0. I'd rather see that. I'd rather us go out on our shield, which is where we're at.
Jamie, with the amount of injury problems that we have at the moment, do you think if we went to Manchester City full strength, do you think we could actually go toe-to-toe with them to try and win that game and perhaps go that one step further against the champions of Europe? Because it was a great performance. And as I said before you came on, it doesn't matter what clientele Ange puts in. He still expects that same level and he still wants to play exactly that same way, which as a Spurs fan, I absolutely love, because you mentioned there the Chelsea game, we lost 4-1. We then went and lost, against Wolves and Aston Villa. But the Spurs fans are, totally into this project and they can see exactly what Ange's doing. Yeah.
I coach my boys under 9s team, and what I always say to them is, if you go and try and play and we lose, or we lose to a better team, or we get outplayed, I'm all right with that. I'm not all right with no effort. I'm not all right with you giving up. And it's the same when I watch Spurs. So I think that's the rest of the Spurs fans. We lost that Villa game. We should have won that Villa game, and we ran out of steam because we've got so many injuries, suspensions, and all of that. But we had a go, and I think 100%. I think if Van de Ven's playing, I think he's the key. He's the real key for me because of his pace, because of his strength. I think he gets us turning quicker. I think he gets us playing out quicker. There's an argument to say that Man City might not take their foot off the gas, because let's be honest, they did. They got a bit complacent. But yeah, 1,000,000%, I think, with a full strength side. I thought Lo Celso was brilliant. Madison, I think with him playing in those pockets, I would be really confident we'd have won that game. Really, really confident. Bentancur, I think was another miss today. Bissouma's obviously made that mistake, but we're in a nice position where we're not moaning and sulking and criticising mistakes. Bissouma absolutely should have played a 10-yard pass, kept it simple, and seen it out. However, 9 times out of 10, he's so good and so strong on the ball. We want him to do that. We want him to turn and play in those areas. So you've got to take the rough and the smooth, and you can't have everything. So I'd rather see that. I'd rather us play the way we're playing. You won't get any complaints from me. And yes, I think we'd have won that game.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's have a look at the league table, because Spurs are 5th in the Premier League table after 14 matches. We've won 8, we've drawn 3, we've lost 3. We've got a goal difference of +8. We have 27 points. We're now only 2 points away from the top 4. We're 6 points away from league leaders and rivals Arsenal right now. The starting 11 today, there was one change. Bissouma in for the injured Bentancur, and Manchester City also made one change. Vicario in for Ake. No Eric Dyer today. And Postecoglou stated that he pulled up sore after training. Richarlison was back in the matchday squad as well. But before the game, Postecoglou said that he would only last 5 to 10 minutes. The lineup is in full. Vicario in goal, the back 4 of Porro, Emerson, Davies, Udogie. In midfield, Kulusevski, Bissouma, Lo Celso, and the front 3 of Johnson, Son, and Brian Hill. On the sub-bench today, a couple of academy players. Forster, Austin, Dorrington, Skip, Højbjerg, Santiago, Donnelly, who actually made his debut. Many congratulations to him. Richarlison and Viles. What did you make of the starting 11 today, Craig?
It's pretty much to be expected, really, because we're kind of down to bare bones. I mean, I thought it was more telling that we had 2 goalkeepers on the bench again. But great to see the academy boys get on the bench again, and fantastic to see Donnelly get his debut. I don't know what legacy number we're up to now, but obviously he'll be getting one on the back of his shirt next game. So, yeah, I just think it kind of picked itself, the team, to a degree. You could have argued you could have thrown Højbjerg in there, but who did very well, I thought, when he came on again. It's kind of what we've got at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Davies and Emerson aren't, well, Davies more than Emerson, centre back, because he's played there in the back 3, certainly. But Emerson did a job. He didn't have a particularly great game, I don't think, and we did keep giving him the ball from Vicario. I was getting nervous every time Emerson was getting the ball, because that's not his forte, doing what he was doing, and he nearly got caught out a few times, or did get caught out a few times. But we rode those bad waves, if you like, and got through the game. And to be honest, he done okay in the end. But as Jamie was saying there, I'm convinced that we would have given them a much better game, and actually probably won that game today if we'd had a full strength team out. It just goes to show that the squad does need improving, and the players that are coming in are not quite at the level required. But kudos to Ange, because he has got the ones that are perhaps second string, if you like, playing that brand of football and starting to buy in to that brand of football, taking risks, taking the ball on the turn, as you were saying there about Bissouma. I didn't think he had his best game today, trying things, and fair play to the whole squad today, because I thought everybody pretty much was outstanding today. I thought Kulu was fantastic. I thought Sonny played well today. That whole starting 11 was pretty much on it from minute 1. Yeah, the first half wasn't brilliant, and if Haaland had his shooting boots on, the game could have been beyond us. But look, that's football. That's football, and we got back into it, and we made them pay for not taking their chances. Teams have done that to us this season, let alone any other season. So, yeah, another one out of the way, a big game out of the way. We just get through Newcastle and West Ham, and the fixtures are a bit kinder to us, dare I say, on paper anyway. So, and then we're hopefully starting to get players back. So, fingers crossed we can start pushing up that league towards Christmas and the New Year.
Yeah, it's certainly a busy December. Another 6 games to go. And as you mentioned, Craig, West Ham on Thursday, Newcastle on Sunday, both at home. Gareth, let's come to you. Of course, Bissouma was back in the team today after being suspended. What did you make of his performance today?
Tough one, because I thought he done well, but obviously it gets highlighted now because of the mistake for the goal. But I mean, I just think, like the lad said, that's the way Ange wants us to play. I'm sure when the boys do the analysing on, probably take a day off tomorrow, probably Tuesday, they'll do an analysis session of the game after the training session, and I'm sure that it won't be singled out because Ange wants him to do that. How many times this season, as Craig pointed out, where Bissouma has started off attacks by beating a player in a press, and unfortunately he come up against Rodri, and he's probably the best in them situations and nicking the ball. Probably that's where Bissouma needs to be a wee bit smarter and think, look at who I'm up against, just play it safe. But Ange just doesn't do safe, and I mean, it took us to the 94th, 95th minute for a long ball from Vicario from a goal kick every other time he played short, and that just shows you, he puts faith in the likes of Emerson and Davies, who aren't even centre backs. Davis has played in a back three, but not in a two up until now. And he says, we're going to play our own way, and it's a bit of both, where Ange has given him the faith, but a lot of times when you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in a manager's style of play, you'll just change. And how many times have we seen players been given instructions by previous managers, or even if you look at our teams where they're under pressure and you just say, let's just pump it 50 or 60 yards. That didn't happen today, and you're up against the best team in Europe. So fantastic that everyone's buying into it. Jamie makes a great point about coaching kids. Ange is almost doing the same with these professionals, that we don't lose, we learn. And I think that's a great motto, that even when we lose games, he's not looking at it as obviously it's a bad result, but he's looking at it as a learning curve. I mean, if you look at Klopp, Arteta, Pep Guardiola, you look at their first seasons, there's been many, many bumps. Everton beating Man City 4-0 in Pep's first season. Liverpool losing, I think, 3-0 away at Watford. Arsenal had an awful run under Arteta. So things are going to happen at the start of managers' reigns. And I think sometimes everyone's expecting, even look at the media, like Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher today, they're expecting Spurs to be, at full tilt. We're only 4 or 5 months on the new manager. We've got 9 players missing. For us to put on that kind of performance today gives me so much confidence that when we get our players back, get another summer transfer window, we are going to be absolutely frightening, Chris. Frightening.
Gareth, as a coach yourself, what do you make of all the pundits at the moment, particularly before today's game losing 3 on the spin? Many pundits now, ex-players and so forth, are saying Ange Postecoglou cannot keep playing this way. He cannot keep playing the way he's playing if he wants results. Many people have called him naive in the last couple of weeks. What do you make of that criticism?
There is a bit of there's bravery and there's naivety. Both we've shown in the last few games. I mean, the only performance I've really looked at this season where we didn't really play well was Wolves. That was the only performance out of the 14 Premier League games I thought where we didn't put on a performance. The other 13 games I thought we were outstanding. You look at, people will say, as Craig pointed out, if Haaland scores them 2 goals, the game's probably over. But if Spurs take our chances last week against Aston Villa, the game's over. So it flip-flops, Chris. I do think it's never going to happen overnight. So you do have to go through some short-term pain for long-term gain. Pep Guardiola lost so many goals playing out from the back at the very, very start. And he went through he went through how many goalkeepers before he brought Walker, he bought so many left backs, centre backs, so he done it with personnel. I don't think Ange will have that luxury. You look at Klopp at Liverpool. Yes, he went out and signed Alisson and Van Dijk, but the rest of the players he had, he kind of try and he went Newcastle to get Wijnaldum. So it's a test in time for Ange. Recruitment's going to be key. But he hasn't had a luxury of money so far. And you look at the likes of Lo Celso, Bissouma, Pedro Porro, all players that were written off, Chris. And he has turned them into the top players. So, and even if you look at someone like Son, who I'm a massive fan of him, but he frustrates me at times, I think his all-round game under Ange has gone up so many levels. He's not giving the ball away as much. His awareness has improved. And that's just not down to, people will say, responsibility because of Kane even. He's been worked on as that. That's not just been a roll of dice. Let's play him as a number 9 because we've no other option. I think that's been something that's being planned. And I think everything that Ange does is planned, Chris. It's not just it's not just off the cuff. So, this is a top manager, Chris. He's not been given a lot of plaudits because of where he's came from, but I have no doubt that we're definitely going in the right direction, Chris. And we should look. I mean, we're only 6 points off the top of the table with so many injuries, Chris. Get through this next period. I'm not saying we're going to win the league or nothing like that, but no one's pulling away at the top, Chris. I always thought that we have to try and find ways to get results. But the performances have really surprised me. I expected a massive drop off, and to be totally honest, Chris, you look at the games against Villa, and today there's not been a massive drop off at all.
Jamie, can I come to you on that same point, because I cannot stress enough the amount of injury problems, suspensions that we have had so far, especially in these last few weeks. And then suddenly we lose a couple of games, unbeaten in 10, sitting top of the Premier League, lose a couple of games. And then you've even got some Spurs fans criticising Ange, saying, we can't play like this, we can't do that, he can't do this, naive. You hear all these things and you're thinking, come on, you've got to see the bigger picture. I'm not dictating to people saying how people should feel, but, as a Spurs fan that has seen drab football in the last X amount of years under various different managers and so on, when you see the style that we're playing, the entertainment, we're all Spurs fans on this podcast this evening, but, for any neutral fan sitting watching that game today, they must have thought, wow, this is one of the best games of the Premier League season so far.
100%. And anyone that's sitting there having a moan about Ange, they need to let their season ticket go and let someone else have it. I doubt they are season ticket holders, maybe, but because we've had a variety of styles in the last few seasons, and this is the one I'm buying into. This is one for me personally. And go back to Gareth's point there. I'd like to see Pep. I'd like to see Klopp. I'd like to see any of these guys come into the situation that Ange Postecoglou came into, losing arguably the best striker in the world the day before the season starts, with a wallet that's relatively empty, and a disjointed, disenfranchised squad with no identity. As we've said, you've got the likes of Porro, Bissouma, who are sitting. It was ostracised. He's out. I'd like to see Pep come in and do what Ange has done now, and I'd like to see Klopp come in. And I don't think we'd be any better off, any different. I really don't, because he's come in, he's got what we needed is someone with a strong identity going, this is how we are going to play. And that is how Spurs want. That's what made me a Spurs fan in the first place, all them years ago, because I loved the football that we played. They were always so fashionable and cool, and they had great players, Hoddles and all of those guys. I feel the same now. So if Ange wants to come in and put his stamp on it, then we've got to give him time. We've got to buy into that, because we've tried the big megastar managers, we've tried the celebrity managers, tried the big egos. Doesn't work. All right, Poch did an amazing job, and whatever happened. We have to let that go now. We've now got a manager that comes in. He's his own man. He loves the club. I can tell he loves the club, and he wants to be successful. He wants to turn around and go, it doesn't matter where I've come from. I know my football and I know how I want to play. And I, for one, am going to give him as much time, and we need to give him as much time as is needed. And if any naysayers can do one, I'm not interested, because these are the same people who are like, oh yeah, get rid of Poch and get Mourinho in. I was never one of them. I never wanted him to go, and I never wanted Mourinho in. I never saw the fit. Didn't see the Conte fit. Didn't see it. Now, for the first time in a long, long time, this is what I want to see. And you're absolutely right. That for the neutral, and that's great. We don't want people saying Spursy. The word Spursy literally makes my skin crawl. And no one's saying that now. That wasn't Spursy. Nothing Spursy about that. That's courage. That's bravery. That's going out on your shield, and that's what he's instilling in us. So all the negative naysayers can switch off now.
I think when you see the character that Spurs showed today, certainly going up against the Premier League champions, the European champions as well, and I think that this is only going to get better under Ange Postecoglou. And I know I keep going on about all the injuries, but like you said as well, Jamie, before the season started, Harry Kane, arguably the best Tottenham Hotspur player in Premier League history for us, of course, top goal scorer as well at the club. He's had a lot of problems, and I think that after transfer window after transfer window, and when he gets all of these players fit and available again, I think that this is only going to get better and better.
Craig, don't forget as well on the Harry Kane thing, like, he hasn't replaced him. It's not like we've got 100 million and he's gone out and he spent 70, 80 million on a striker and that striker's come in. We haven't done a Chelsea. He has had the courage to come in, lose a player of that stature, have that money, unlike the Gareth Bale money, when we absolutely blew it, and none of those players really lasted. He's come in and he's gone, right, okay, let's have a look at what we've got. Let's keep this collective. Let's build this team from within. That's brave. That's brave. That's courageous. And he's also, not only that, he's not just come in and gone, well, let's tippy-tap around. He's gone, right, I'm going to literally overhaul this. This is how we're going to play football. And players that have come out through suspension or injury, the players that have come in are still buying in. Lo Celso's, Brian Hill, all of them are coming in and buying into the same concept. Brennan Johnson, they're all buying into it. So he's instilling it through the squad. We are going to strengthen in January. We have to. But, the signs are brilliant. The signs are amazing. To go to Man City, to ride our luck, let's be honest, as Craig said, if Haaland's got his shooter's boots on, that's a different kettle of fish. If they don't get complacent, but they did, and he didn't. So, we've ridden our luck and we've come out with a 3-3 draw because we didn't give up. We didn't stop fighting. I love that. I'm all over that.
Craig, let's come to you. There are a number of, let me just say, cocky Manchester City fans expecting them to absolutely thrash us today. I know you listened to the radio interview I did on BBC Manchester on Friday evening. They, all the fans on there expected to batter us today with the amount of injuries we've got. What do you think of Manchester City's performance today?
I thought it was pretty much what you'd expect from City in the first half, but as Jamie said, they became complacent in the second half. They stepped back a bit. I think they thought they'd got the game won. I thought they thought it was going to be easy in the second half, and we punished them. Look, and it's what Gareth was saying. They're not just the best team in Europe; they're the best team in the world. And we've given them a game today, and not many people go to the Etihad and have 45% possession. Dare I say, a severely weakened team and players playing out of position. And we got 45% possession. Yeah, we didn't have many shots in the first half. I think we just had one, which was Son's. But the second half, regardless of what City does, as Jamie said, regardless of what City did and what Haaland didn't do, we still gave them a game. We still kept going. We still went to the last minute and we got our rewards for it. So, they're kind of their own worst enemy sometimes, City. There would have been thoughts of, I'm sure, amongst that fan base, and it did go quiet when we went 1-0 up, and the fans must have been thinking, oh, here we go again. And that's exactly what happened in the end. All right, we didn't get the win, but, they should have won that game. They should have put us to bed in that first half, and they didn't. And we come out in the second half. We didn't feel sorry for ourselves. We kept going. Subs were brought on, and they performed well, and we got a draw. And you can't ask for more. Well, you can, because you could have asked for a win, but you know what I mean. It was a cracking second half performance. It really gives me a lot of confidence going into the games coming up when we get the players back, like I say, and when we do get those players in the transfer window, because Levy has got to backhand you. For God's sake, if you can't see it now, then you'll never will be able to. He's got to back him. This season was all about building on last year. Obviously, we finished 8th, and there's varying different opinions of where we thought we would finish this season. But I do think top 5 is definitely achievable. Probably top 4 if we keep going. I think Villa will drop off a little bit, especially if they go deep in Europe. And it just goes to show. I think the top 4 is definitely there. Liverpool only just scraped across the line today. So teams are dropping points, and I think Arsenal will have a few tough games. So it's there if we want it. And I think we get these players back and we'll have a real go at it. I think come end of January into February, we could have everybody back. And if we can get to, January's a quieter month. We've got the FA Cup, then a week off. So we've got the chance. If we can just somehow get through the Christmas period into January, we've got a real chance. And then if we get in the Champions League, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but if we get in the Champions League and have a good summer window, we are going to be frightening. We're going to be, we're going to be up there. We're going to be competing, which is all you can ask.
That's a good point, actually, Craig, because it's fair to say Ange Postecoglou is not going to have a fully fit or available squad until at least February, because, of course, those players do go off to their respective competitions. Yeah. 4 other results in the Premier League today: Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 2, Chelsea 3, Brighton 2, Liverpool 4, Fulham 3, and West Ham United 1, Crystal Palace 1. Gareth, let's come to you. Let's start by talking about the game, because in the 6th minute, first shot on target by Doku. Of course, Manchester City, Vicario saved. A minute later, Of course, Spurs went 1-0 up. I've got to say, what brilliant play from Brian Hill. Kulusevski, what a ball. Heung-min Son, what a finish. Arguably, the goalkeeper, Ederson, probably should have saved it, in fairness. But what a start from Tottenham Hotspur.
Oh, it was brilliant, Chris. It was just what we needed because we're under a wee bit of pressure in them first few minutes. And then we get the breakaway goal. Up, as you say, Brian Gill done very, very well for the goal. But surprised he started. I thought before the game, I thought Højbjerg would have come in. Just on the purity of the fact that from what we've seen of both players, Højbjerg, for me, has proven he can come into these games. Not seen enough from Brian Gill. I've seen flashes. Think he needs a run of games. Well, that's out in loan. Obviously, we can't afford to lose anyone at the minute. We need everyone we can. But I'm not sure about him, going forward. I think maybe a wee bit light. I think he suits maybe La Liga, then type of league better. But no doubt the boy's got ability. But I thought it was a very smart change, Brennan Højbjerg on at half time. But as you say, great start. He does really, really well for the goal. Up against Kyle Walker is no easy feat. So, I mean, it was never going to be easy for him anyway. But great goal, Chris. And, it gave you that real belief then that we were going to go on and win the game. Obviously, it wasn't a long lead, as you'll speak about. But fantastic start. And, it gave us that platform and confidence. And, again, we've seen with City over the last few weeks, they are vulnerable at the back. And I think that just proved it in that early moment. And sometimes you need that bit of confidence, especially, results haven't been great despite performances. And I think that was the platform for the game, really.
Jamie, what do you think of Tottenham's opening goal, Heung-min Son? Because, of course, it came from a Manchester City corner.
It did. At that point there, I was thinking this is going to be a very long afternoon. I think I just poured myself a beer and I was like, yeah, I'm going to just knuckle down and watch this for the slit of my fingers. But, yeah, it was phenomenal. Brian Gill did amazingly well and then sort of didn't, and then I think they switched on to him a little bit and showed him out of the game. But it was great. And the strength that Sonny showed, I think it was good that he was up against Doku, because I think if he's up against any of their defenders, maybe they cut that out. But, those are the breaks. But, what a finish, yeah, awesome. Just awesome. We were going absolutely mad. It's been a very crazy afternoon. It was just amazing.
Jamie, literally a couple of minutes later, of course, Heung-min Son then put the ball in his own net. Of course, fantastic delivery in from the free kick. Haaland got a slight touch. I've got to admit, I don't know what Heung-min Son could have done really there. It was an unlucky moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do there. He's just, 9 times out of 10, that skids off his knee and goes out for a corner. Like, it's one of those. He's a great finisher, and it was a good finish. So, I think if I remember rightly, the free kick came from, because one of the criticisms I do is I think we're in certain areas, in little points, we are overplaying a little bit. We're just taking an extra touch. We're playing a little bit. I think that came from one of those moments. There are, and we won't talk about the Bissouma one because that's an obvious one, but I think in certain areas, especially attacking, Emerson Royale definitely did it, but I think sometimes we need to move that ball a little bit quicker. And I find it odd, actually, because he wants us to play so attacking, and because we want to be so positive, I would personally think he'd be getting us to move that ball quicker and to not dwell on it as much. And I think sometimes we are getting a little bit caught out. And I remember saying that after the Luton game when I was last on. I felt that we overplayed in areas and made the game difficult for ourselves when we should have been a bit more clinical in front of goal and taken shots or moved it or switched the play or whatever we're going to do, but just taking that extra run. So I think that we put ourselves in trouble there. And we should have had 5 minutes just to sort of consolidate and sit on the lead a little bit.
That was something I was going to bring up during this podcast, Jamie, and you mentioned it about moving the ball quicker. You see Ange Postecoglou, you hear him, you see him on the touchline telling the players to move the ball quicker, telling them to move it forward. Surely that is going to change, though, within time, because some of these players do need to be coached in the way that he wants them to play, because we noticed a week or so ago, Højbjerg took an extra touch rather than passing the ball to Heung-min Son first time. And, of course, Sonny was then offside. So surely that's going to come within time, you would have thought.
You'd think so, but it's the one sort of question mark I've had since the beginning of the season, because it doesn't fit. Hanging on to the ball too long, not moving the ball, but it doesn't fit with how he wants to play. I would have think he'd want to, to pull the trigger as much as we can to get, to turn defences, to put ball into dangerous areas as quickly as possible, regarding his philosophy. So it is an odd one. So I don't know if it's a little bit of the time that it's taken for him to really input what he wants to do, and the players being a little bit kind of at cross purposes at times. Maybe some players want to keep on and move the ball. Højbjerg's not someone who's dynamically going to, often play defence splitting passes. He likes to, to win it and give it, and sometimes he does hold on to it. But yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, you like to think it will change, and you like to think Ange, I think he's a good coach. He will recognise it. It's not just me sitting here and I'm going to reveal something he doesn't know. So you think that he would be, changing it. I would have thought.
Craig, let's come to you. After 13 minutes, Manchester City had a glorious chance through Erling Haaland, and he missed it. I don't think anyone in the stadium could believe that he missed that opportunity. I don't think he could believe it. But we lost the ball due to Vicario playing it out to Emerson. I just want to ask you about the back line today, because, of course, Ange Postecoglou loves playing it out from the back. Emerson Royale, Ben Davies centre back today. I don't want to diss both players, but there is a massive quality difference to when you're playing Van der Ven and Romero. Was it right to still play that same style with players of a lot lesser quality in those positions?
It would be easier to turn around and say, no, you should have changed, but it's quite clear. And every time he's been asked it in a press conference, Ange just said, we're not changing. I'm not changing the way we play. So he expects, regardless,
a few
who's
tweaks,
there.
A few tweaks.
We're going to. Well, I personally don't like the playing out from the back where you're sodding about with it. There's a couple of, I've lost count the amount of times in my household there's shouts of get it up the effing pitch, because you're going to get caught out. And sometimes I don't see what you gain from doing that. Sometimes you just lose the ball higher up the pitch for the opposition. So, but I get if you can play through them, if you've got the players to play through the press, because that's what they're trying to do, then it does reap its rewards. But you're right with those players, especially Emerson. I'm not digging at Emerson because I think he's really turned his game around, because he did get a lot of stick from me, from a lot of people on this channel. But I think he just turned his game around. But he's not a centre back. Davies is slightly better at it. I feel more comfortable with Davies on the ball than Emerson, and we did tend to push it out to the right more than to the left. So it does make me nervous when we've got not your first choice and the quality centre backs, if you like, playing that high risk football. Should he have changed it? Possibly gone a bit more direct, but he's not going to change. What we all want. He's not going to change for anybody. You don't care what anybody says to him. And in a way, I love that, because it's bought this brand of football that we've seen today, and it's got us back into the game, and we've got a draw at City. So, I think Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher can say all they want, because I think they love, some of the pundits love to see Spurs fall flat on their face, and they love criticising people, especially us. I don't think it's all, woe is me. I think there is an element of that. Spurs do get a lot of stick off the commentators and the press and other fans, wrongly in my opinion, but it's just the way it is. And if we can come through it and do it playing our football and the football that Ange wants to play, then you can put two fingers up at everybody and say we did do it our way, So long may that continue. But to be honest, Chris, I'd rather have Van der Ven and Romero back, to be honest. And I hope Romero's learned his lesson, because he seems to have been out for ages, what with the break we had. So you'd imagine he'll be straight back in. Just wonder who he's going to play against West Ham. Is it going to be Romero and Davies, perhaps? We'll see.
Such a costly red card for Romero, those 3 games that he has missed. So costly. Gareth, let's come to you. In the 23rd minute, a brilliant run from Brennan Johnson, literally glides past Gvardiol in the Manchester City defence, tried to get a cross in, eventually blocked. What did you make of Brennan Johnson this evening?
Do you know what, Chris? I've been impressed from what I've seen so far. I don't think he's been overly involved. I think that'll come with more experience, more game time. He's had a rotten luck. He's had a rotten luck since he came here. He got injured in his first start. Then against Chelsea, he was electric, and then first 15 minutes gets subbed off because there's a red card. And he's only really getting a run of games now. I mean, I thought today he doesn't get involved as much as like a Kulusevski or a Son. But I think that's just because he's come from Nottingham Forest. He's getting up to speed. But from what I've seen in like moments, compared to like someone like Brian Gill, I'm much more confident of Brennan Johnson being a success here. I think he's got that burst of acceleration. He's got the power. He's got that little bit of arrogance too. I mean, today I think he probably made a couple of poor decisions, but I was glad to see him having a shot from the edge of the box. That's the kind of arrogance that you need, and that confidence to go and do that. I think he will be talented, and I think he'll be great for us. Like Craig makes some fantastic points there. I just try to imagine that I'm a player in that Spurs meeting this week before the Man City game, and if the manager comes in and says, "Right, lads, we're playing Man City. We're missing all our main players. We're going to sit back. We're going to lump it long, and we're going to try and see it out." What do you think the mood in the change room was, or in the briefing room? If he says that, I think it would just deflate the whole team. I think Ange probably knows this is being slightly, maybe people will say naive, but it's being very brave. And if Haaland puts his chances away today, it could be 3 or 4-1 at half time, and we're on here talking about a different scoreline. But that's just the way football is, Chris. And I don't think anybody on that second half performance can say Spurs didn't deserve at least a draw. I mean, at 2-1, Man City were hanging on. And even at 3, even at the mistake for the goal, it wasn't the same Man City goal was coming. I thought if anybody was going to win, it was going to be Spurs. Kind of like how the Arsenal game went, where we had that, we were under the cosh for the first 20-25 minutes. And then by the end of the game, it looked like Spurs were going to go on and win it again. So we do seem to be improving as games go on, in them big games especially. So, I mean, I'm all for it. I think that, Ange probably knows that, this time next year, the squad will look different. I don't think the likes of Ben Davies, Højbjerg, who done really well today, and he never lets us down in terms of his effort. I don't think they're the type of players that fit his style of play. I think you'll see a bit of an overhaul there. I don't think Royale will be used. I think he'll be more of maybe a replacement for Porro, like a second string right back. So I do think, for now he's going through some pain as well with selections, because he's only been here 6 months. He's only had one window. I mean, January's a difficult window to do stuff as well, so I wouldn't be imagining too much change in January. But the more, more confident feeling I have is that look what he's doing with players that maybe aren't at the level of a team maybe challenging for top 4 Premier League, title challenging. That imagine what he can do with even better players. That is the scary thing. So, Chris, today I would have been very disappointed if we had changed our whole way of playing. And completely sat off Man City. I would have been very disappointed. I didn't think that was going to happen. And, Ange was true to his word. And even if we had got beat today, Chris, if we had lost that game 3-2, again, I would have been looking at it more positively than negatively. I would have took out so much more positive than negative. And I was just so glad that we got that result, because, it's been a tough few weeks in terms of, as Ange has said, results-wise, performances have been good, but we needed to get a point on the board. And, with the games coming up, I think Craig mentioned get through West Ham and Newcastle. I think we're favourites in them games at home. And, between now and the new year, we can definitely start climbing the table.
It's so nice to hear so much positivity from you, Gareth, because you've been on this channel so much under Antonio Conte. And it's nice to hear.
I mean, Chris, I've been begging for this type of change, over the last few years. Even like I think it was last January I come on here after the Portsmouth FA Cup game, and I got crucified on here for saying about the style of play was terrible. It was never going to be sustainable. I thought a lot of the results was lucky. We weren't playing great, and it was down to Kane being very, very good and individually pulling us out of a hole. I did say at the time it wasn't sustainable. I got hammered for it. I took that on board. And if we had got beat today, I would have come on here again positive, and I would have got hammered probably by people saying you're being silly, believing all this naive football. I'm just glad that it come on. It was a good result, because you see me at the Sheffield United game, Chris, and I was so positive. You probably thought it was my brother or something. You probably didn't believe it was me. But I was so positive, and I'm going to the game on New Year's Eve, and I'm absolutely buzzing. I used to go to the games out of sort of loyalty, and although I was excited for the game, after about 5 minutes, I was like, "Why am I even here? This is terrible." And it's so nice going to games now where I'm excited. Like even today, going to Man City with half a team missing, I was absolutely buzzing for the game. Whereas before, when we had our full strength 11, going there with Conte, going there with Mino, and even though we got good results, it was a hard watch, and I had no confidence going into the game we would get a result.
Yeah, I can confirm that Gareth had a big smile on his face and a beer in the hand, and that's exactly what Andrew's done this season, put a smile on everyone's faces. Jamie, let's come to you. In the 28th minute, Manchester City gave the ball away. Bryan Hill had it. He had a great opportunity, and I think this is exactly what you and I were talking about earlier on in the show, about moving the ball quicker, because had he have moved the ball quicker, he could have passed to Heung-min Son, who was completely unmarked in the middle. Heung-min Son didn't look happy about it at all. I just want to ask you about Bryan Hill's performance, because a lot of us Spurs fans say about fringe players or players that don't get much game time, they need run in the team, they need to go in the team. Of course, he spent time out on loan. Do you see it working out for someone like Bryan Hill at Tottenham under Postecoglou?
Well, last season, no. When he first came in, I thought he looked a bit lightweight. I wasn't quite sure of what he brought to the party. This season, in the glimpses that I've seen of him and the chances that he's had, I think there is potential. I think I don't know. There's something about him that I feel like he's not quite what we need in those sort of wide areas. He almost looks like he needs to be playing in the hole. He needs to be playing in that sort of more central position. I don't know if that is going to be the case or if that is. But he looks, because I think he's got great feet. He's very slippery. He can create things with his movement. I mean, right now, if you're going to push me for an answer, I'm trying to be nice. I don't think he's probably going to have too much of a future, which I think is a shame. And I think it comes down to his strength. I think it comes down to, I think he'd be too easy to figure out. Like, if you look at him today, that first 5-10 minutes, he was brilliant. He come up against Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker's literally going to fold him up and put him in his pocket, which is what he did. And I think he's going to get eaten up unless he fills out, and unless he bulks out. But is he going to do that at his age? Is it going to affect his pace? Is it going to affect his ability to turn inside out? I just don't know. I'm not sure exactly what he brings. I think he's got great potential, and it's definitely not a no. It was a no before for me. I was a bit like, no, I don't really see. But it's more of a question mark right now. But if I'm honest and brutal, where we want to go, I just don't think we've got the time to kind of wait for him. And another loan spell doesn't really serve us. It doesn't. There's no point.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's an English team, unless he's being loaned to an English team, I don't see any value in loaning him out.
No, exactly. And then why are we going to do that? When we're trying to build something, and so I don't know. I feel a bit sorry for that, because I do think he was, and I thought against Villa he was really good. He showed really good, good moments. So yeah, difficult. I mean, Lo Celso, on the other hand, Lo Celso is the opposite end of the spectrum. I think
that's exactly where I was going to go, Lo Celso, because if you go on social media today and go on social media after the Aston Villa game as well, it seems that half the people are really for Lo Celso and half are saying, well, what actually did he do in the game? Where do you stand on it?
Well, again, I think he's much better playing further forward, as we've now discovered. He's much better, like, working in those little holes like Maddison does. Is he a replacement for Maddison? No. When Maddison comes back, 1,000,000% Maddison plays. But it's good to see. I think he stepped on, and I think he's done himself absolutely no harm whatsoever. And he's definitely given Ange, he asked him a question, for sure. When Maddison comes back, does he swap him straight out? He's shown he's capable. What a great goal today. I thought that strike as well, that he caught it so clean. He's technically a very good player. I think with better players around him, with better options around him, maybe. So he's definitely done himself no harm. But I don't, with a full strength squad, he does step aside for me. But I've been really impressed with him.
Craig, let's come to you on that same point about Giovanni Lo Celso, because there's many reports coming out, certainly in the last couple of weeks, about Barcelona. He is their number one target in the January transfer window. Would you be sorry to see Giovanni Lo Celso leave? Because when you go back to the summer, a lot of Spurs fans, including myself, never ever thought that we would see Giovanni Lo Celso put that Spurs shirt on again, playing at the club, certainly under a new manager. We all thought that he would be sold in the last window. Are you surprised by this transformation in Lo Celso now being a starter? I know we've got injuries, but coming into the team.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if Maddison's fit, I don't think Lo Celso gets a look in, to be honest with you. He's kind of the Maddison replacement. And to be fair to him, I thought he played pretty well today, Lo Celso. Lovely goal as well. I didn't think we'd see him in a Spurs shirt, if I'm honest again. But I saw enough in those friendlies pre-season to realise there is a player in there. You know, he's been pretty much under pragmatic managers, hasn't he? And now he's under Ange. He does look like the Lo Celso that we kind of promised we were getting, because I didn't really know much about him when he joined. So would I like to see him go? I probably wouldn't. You know, if we keep hold of him for the rest of the season, then he goes in the summer, then so be it. But I think he's an important player, certainly in the moment while Maddison's out. He just gives us something a little bit different. As for Brian Gill, just coming back on that, I'd love for him to work out at Tottenham. I thought he'd nice, tricky little player, something a bit different. But I just don't think it's ever going to work for him at Spurs. And I think we should cut our losses and let him go. Whether we'll have the ability to do that in January, as if we get players in, then I think Gill could be out the door. And like you say, I don't see any point in giving him a loan, even to an English team. I just don't think it's the right league for him personally, which is a shame, because I think there's a player in there. I just don't think he's suited to the Premier League. And, you know, that happens with some players. And I think he's one of them. You know, he showed some nice touches today and a few bits of skill, but I just don't think it's right for him. So as for going back to Lo Celso, like I say, I think hold on to him for the rest of the season, because I think he'd be a good squad player once Maddison comes back in, because like I say, I think Maddison does come back in as soon as he's fit. Could you play both of them? Probably. I think Lo Celso could fill one of those front roles, to be honest, on the left or the right. He surprised me in that, you know, in the transfer window when we got him and Ndombele, I must admit, I was quite excited to see Ndombele and Lo Celso together in the midfield. And obviously the one time they were put there, it was atrocious, wasn't it? That probably said more about Ndombele than Lo Celso, of course, but look, it is what it is. He's come in. He's played really well today. He's going to play again, you would imagine, the next two games at least, and start the next two games. So hopefully he can still continue that good form on, because we do need somebody in there, a lock picker, and somebody that's a little bit different.
Gareth, let's come to you in the 30th minute. A good run from Doku, running at Davies. He shot, he hit the bar, then bounced off the post, and then a minute later, and I know we're not here to talk about the quality football of Manchester City, but that was classic Manchester City. A real silky goal from them, finished off by Foden, Alvarez assisting. A brilliant move, wasn't it?
Well, it was a fantastic goal, Chris. I mean, but from a Man City point of view, it was a fantastic goal. But I mean, that was the one time in the game that them sort of that spell before half time was really, really tough. We couldn't get out. You know, City were dominant, and the goal was coming. We got that warning sign. You know, it was surprising because it all came from a corner. Really, I think it might have been our corner where Davies then had to cover it right back. But then we went up the other end, and I'm surprised that Porro and Davies didn't swap over during that transition. And Davies actually ended up being right back then on the counter attack. And you know, not even Davies backed himself to stop Doku. He kind of gave up. He didn't really. He was trying to cut. He let him onside, which was crazy. And you know, we're very lucky to escape that. And in the end, it was irrelevant because he scored a minute later. But again, it was Davies for the goal. Instead of, you know, that was a one time in the game he didn't hold the line, and Davies gambled and went back and played the whole team onside, and they walked through us because the rest of the team couldn't get back. You know, I think that's where you have to trust the system, and you try and play the offside. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. As Ange said, he'll take responsibility if things go wrong. I'm sure when Ange looks back at that goal, he'll be saying to Davies, look, that's where you got to hold your line. You cannot panic and play. He played the whole team onside, and that's why they walked through us. I mean, how often do you see goals like that in the Premier League where a player is in the 6-yard box completely unmarked and he puts it away? So, you know, that was a tough period. At that point, I really thought we just need to get to half time at 2-1. And luckily we did. And it was a different game second half. But just going back on the points that the boy said, completely agree with the Brian Hill issue. You know, I think at his time at Spurs, it won't work out, Chris. I think, as Craig said, you know, and even loaning him out the English team, I said I would do that if it had Kane to alone. But I just don't see it working out. It doesn't suit this league. And he looks at times, Chris, that it's really hard work for him, even to do the basics. It looks like he's really struggling with the physicality of the English game. So I just don't see it working out. And on Lo Celso, for me, very unlucky, as the boy said, with he was signed by Pochettino. Then that he was injured. He only got a few games under Poch, and then he came on the pragmatic managers who never really suited his style of play. Thought he was an outstanding player in pre-season, Chris, and I think Ange has said a number of times this season that he's been very unlucky. That the team was winning, unbeaten, top of the league. He couldn't change the midfield three that we had. So he was never, it wasn't his fault. And then he said that he was one of the players that would benefit from the injuries, that he would get his opportunity. And I really do think Ange likes him. And I wouldn't want to see him go, because I think, Chris, next year, if we're going to be in Europe of some sort, hopefully it's the Champions League, we're going to need a squad. And I do think he's a very, very good squad option to come in. He's very tidy on the ball, and he'll suit Ange's style of playing. Chris, from what I've seen of the players, even the French players that's come on this season, they all want to play for the club. They're all be buying into this. I can't see any of them wanting to go. I think Lo Celso's game probably is suited the Spanish league. But I've seen that Barcelona can only do a loan move, so that doesn't suit us. They have no money to spend. And we paid a lot of money from him at the time, Chris. So I would like to see him stay. I think when Madison's fit, Madison plays, but that's not a slight on Lo Celso. Madison, for me, he was arguably the best player in the Premier League before he got injured. You need a squad of players. Look at Man City today. Doku comes off, Grealish comes on. How nice would it be if we're in a game 2 or 3-0 up, and you bring Madison off, and you bring Lo Celso on? We're going to need that. So, no, definitely for me, he has to stay.
Jamie, let's come to you. After Manchester City, of course, scored that second goal, taking a 2-1 lead, there was a lot of pressure. In the 33rd minute, a cross came in. Davies cleared over the bar. A couple of minutes later, we gave the ball away. Alvarez then hit the post. A minute later, Alvarez to Haaland. He shot over the bar. As Gareth said, I was hoping that we would just get in 2-1 down, regroup, and then go out again and try and get a result in the second half. Exactly what we did. Kulusevski, after the game, said to us, just go and play. In that second half, just go and play. If I asked you your honest feelings at half-time, how were you feeling at that point?
Well, relieved that we'd gone in 2-1. I was doing exactly as I was sitting watching with my boy, and I was like, if we can cling on for dear life here, going at 2-1. I think that's another thing that, and we've seen it a number of times already this season. I've got so much faith in Ange's his influence at half time, which I didn't have. Not with Mourinho, certainly not Conte. I don't even know if he was in the dressing room at half the time. I think he must have just got. But that Ange's going to go in there, and he's going to put the right message across, and I love that. And I saw that in his press conference after the game. He said, if it doesn't work, I'll take responsibility.
Yeah.
I felt that I was relieved to go in at half time. I mean, did I think that it would end up being 3-3? No, good God, no. I came back in and sat back down and braced myself, and we had a go, and they did exactly what he's asked them to do, which shows the buy-in for the players. I mean, going back to the point that was made earlier about, should he have changed? Should he adapt it because we've got no centre halves? Should he adapt? But I don't think you can. I think if you're going in at half time and you're saying that and you're saying, listen, I will take responsibility, then you also need every single player to come in and play the same way. You can't adapt because we've lost Mickey van der Ven. You can't adapt because of Romero's. We play away. That's what we want. We want an identity as a team. That's what he's trying to do. So every player that comes in has to be able to play in that system and has to be able to play that way. And if they can't, then they're not going to be long for the club. But the players have got to buy into it. The fans are buying into it. That's what's going to happen. So if you slot back in, if you come into that team, you've got to do the same thing. So I loved it. And on Kulusevski, I thought he was tremendous today.
Yeah.
I thought his work rate, his aggression, absolutely loved it. Absolutely. You can never doubt him. Sometimes I find him a bit frustrating at times when he constantly does the same thing, constantly cuts inside. Sometimes his delivery is a little bit, but I love him and he's really getting back to where he was, when he first came to us, and I was so excited by him, his work rate and his effort. He's absolutely knackered at the end of the games, particularly when he first came to us. And today I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Old Kulusevski, and more of that, the more the better for me.
Yeah, I've got to say Kulusevski was definitely my player of the match as well.
Yeah.
Jamie, let's stay with you because just 18 seconds into the second half, Vicario played it straight to Manchester City and then made a fantastic save.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by a player of that standard? Because, it's fair to say in the summer, lots of Spurs fans said, who's this guy? We wanted David Raya. Lots of Spurs fans wanted David Raya. We got Vicario. Many people said, this is the cheaper option. Vicario, in my opinion, has been a breath of fresh air, a fantastic goalkeeper. But we don't want to see our goalkeeper doing things like this because, of course, we've seen Hugo Lloris do this over the last few years, a number of occasions.
Yeah, and we had Gomez before that. I went to the Shakhtar pre-season friendly and I saw Vicario, and I've got to say, and I think I said this last time I was on, I was like, he hasn't got it. He looked nervous. He looked a bit shaky on the ball. He did pull out a couple of really good saves in that game. And then he made me eat my words. I think he's been tremendous. I think he's been dominant. His shot stopping is phenomenal. And he seems to have a really nice, calm, cool head. I think everyone's allowed an off day. I think he made he looked a little bit ropey at a couple of moments today. But I think you've got to say, he's got 4 fullbacks playing in front of him.
Yeah.
And he's got the best attacking team, some of the best attackers in the world bearing down on him. Shots coming in from all sorts of, they're playing round us. They're shooting from distance. He is, the mental pressure that a goalkeeper is going to be under in that scenario. You've got Emerson Royale desperate to give Man City the ball every time he's getting it. And so I just think, he has pulled out great saves. He's pulled out some great saves, and he's also made some mistakes today. But it's 3-3. Let's not worry about it.
Greg, let's come to you. In the 53rd minute, Johnson had a shot on target from range, comfortable for the goalkeeper. 3 minutes later, Johnson had another shot, which was then blocked. Ederson then gathered. In the 63rd minute, a chance for Udogie. He was through on goal. Son in the middle, goalkeeper saved, and then the offside flag went up. What have you made of Destiny Udogie? What have you made of him today?
Today, I thought he was good. He's kind of what you're getting, not used to, but expecting of Udogie, and realise how much we do miss him when he's not there, because he seems to glide across the pitch. I think he's a very fast player. He's actually quite a big lad, isn't he, for a left back? I think he probably must be 6 foot plus. But I just think he's been a breath of fresh air at left back. He's been different. He doesn't mind getting forward. He's playing the inverted role well, and as you say, but he was offside, but he was up there, making the runs like Porro does on the right. That's incredible to think. You go from the Mourinho days and Conte days, where it's almost like the fullbacks you don't want them over the halfway line. Or what, Conte's a bit different because he played 3 at the back, but it's such a breath of fresh air to see them two getting forward as well. And he does play that role brilliantly, I have to say. Lost his head obviously when he got his 2 yellows, and that cost us. So hopefully he's learnt from that. But I think he's going to be a player for Tottenham. I really do, and hopefully he will stay many, many years. Because come back to what we were saying before. Once Ange gets this squad of players that can play the way he wants us to play, and there is some players there that no matter what they try, they're not going to be able to play this type of football. Once we've got a squad of those players, and they might not be big name players, but there'll be players that can play that way, then I think we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And Udogie's just part of that. I think he's a perfect fit for that left back role.
I think he can actually play in the middle. I think he's so strong, so powerful, and he reads the game so well. I would have made an argument to try him out through the centre instead of Emerson Royale.
Interestingly, but see, when the one game I thought we were very, very poor this season was the game he missed free suspension, and Royale had to play in the left side, and we were very unbalanced. I think Porro and Udogie are key to that way I thought they play.
Yeah,
that was the one game I thought we were very, very poor. That was the only game early this season.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Rose and Walker, isn't it? Really, it's a bit like that sort of scenario, isn't it?
But I think he could, if the other personnel, if we could replace him in that left back position. I think he could. He's a big, strong, quick defender. He's very comfortable with the ball. I think he could do a really good job in the middle.
Gareth, as well as all the good things during the game, I've got to mention some of the negatives as well, because in the 67th minute, Lo Celso had a corner. He put it in. It went straight to Ederson. Not one Spurs player was near the goalkeeper, at the back post, challenging. Why do you think that is?
The set pieces at the minute, we seem to play a lot of them short. There was one, I think it was just before the equalizer as well. We had one, and they played it very, very quickly.
It was 2 minutes before the equaliser, yeah.
We played it very, very quick and ended up going out for a goal kick. Sometimes we're too keen. But I think, Chris, with everything that's happening, Rome wasn't built in a day. There's going to be teething problems. There's going to be issues. I mean, going back to what you're saying with the goalkeeper, I mean, Vicario, there was a couple of ones, but I mean, other than that, I thought he was outstanding with his feet. I mean, right foot, left foot at times, his passing was superb. I have no issue with if he's got the ability to do it, let him do it. If Lloris was doing that, for example, I'll be panicking. Vicario, he's more than capable of playing that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one in the second half. I think he played it straight into Højbjerg, and I was going, my God, it's a disaster. And he played it, Vicario Højbjerg, he played it very quickly, and we got out of it. But we do take risks, but that is the way and what they play. I mean, corners, I was surprised that Celso was taking corners because his corners are pretty poor. We've seen that over the years. And I think that was the only one he took. I think after that, Porro went back on them. So, that was good. His delivery was very good. But Chris, there's a few times I think during the game, Kulusevski could have put the ball into the box too. I think Gary Neville was pretty critical of him in commentary on 2 occasions. But when you look at it, Chris, we're not the tallest team. We're not going to win too many headers. I know Kulusevski, ironically, scores from the header, but he is kind of he's the power and the strength of that front three. Son isn't going to score too many headers. I don't see Brennan Johnson score too many headers. So it's very much about trying to play it through, play around teams and play it through. So there's going to be teething problems, Chris, but I think we're doing very well at this stage so far to be where we are with the players we've lost.
Yeah, we've certainly come on to that goal, but I think it was more of his shoulder than his head. Jamie, let's come to you. In the 69th minute, of course, Spurs equalised 2-2. Giovanni Lo Celso. I've got to say, it was laid off by Heung-min Son, but credit to Ben Davies, who won the ball back to start this move off. And I think that Ben Davies is one of those players that gets a lot of criticism by Spurs fans. But can I just start there? Before we talk about the goal, is the criticism for Ben Davies, is it fair?
Well, no, it isn't. It isn't fair. It is the short answer, because he's been such an amazing servant for us. He's been asked to do several different roles at different times. He's often overlooked. I think he's got better for me. I think he's improved huge amount. I think he's matured. So yeah, I can see why the criticism would come, but you've got to tip your hat to someone who's been with us for that long, and there's no question his effort. He doesn't come in and sulk. He doesn't, and sometimes he's missed games upon games upon games, and then he comes in, he takes his chances, and he probably knows that in a full strength side, he's going to be stepping aside again. But you can never question his effort. So, he loves playing for Spurs. He's a Spurs man as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's justified, the criticism, because he's never really, other than mistakes, he's never let us down in terms of intentionally dropping his head or not putting in the shift. So yeah, it's harsh.
Jamie, on the goal, Lo Celso's finish. This is exactly what we want to see from the Argentinian international, isn't it? Because we haven't seen enough of this from him since we signed him 4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was just brilliant. And Son had actually made a phenomenal run.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
There was a moment and you're going, and you see Son make the run, and I think that's got pretty much guaranteed goal on it if he just literally slides it. So, but that's what you want. You want bravery and you want courageous decisions in those areas, in that situation. And what a finish! It's absolute pinpoint. There's no room for error there, and it's just superb. And like I said, moments later he had another strike, which he caught so clear, and the technique on that was unbelievable, because the ball was actually moving away from him, and he's kind of adapted his body and managed to get a really clean, accurate strike on it. So Yeah, brilliant finish. Absolutely brilliant finish. Thoroughly deserved as well.
Can I ask you, Jamie, how you were feeling at that point? Because that point you mentioned there, 71st minute, with a shot just outside the box that went over. How are you feeling at that point? Were you thinking that Spurs could and should go on to win?
I sort of had that feeling of going, it would be amazing if we did, and I suppose deep down it was more hope than feeling. No, realistically, I actually felt City would just put the burners on and go up and have a couple of gears and take the game out of sight. Personally, if you'd have asked me at the time, but then again, that being said, I don't think it was beyond the realms of believability that we would have gone on to nick it. With the way we play, the way they were sort of sitting back a little bit, the way we were still having a go, it wouldn't have surprised me if we'd have lost or won. But I'm definitely happy with the result. It feels like we've won. I felt at the end like we won. I felt like that was 3 points.
Craig, let's come to you in the 75th minute. Lewis to Rodri, who shot over the bar. 3 minutes later, we made our second sub of the game, Lo Celso off, Oliver Skip coming on. We haven't even mentioned, or very much, Pierre Højbjerg. I felt that he really balanced the game up, really, for Tottenham. He is another one that a lot of Spurs fans have criticised. A lot of Spurs fans wanted to see the back of him in the summer. He stayed around. He's been extremely professional, in my opinion. He's never, ever complained. And every single time that we've called on him, he's done a remarkable job for us. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. I think he came on today and he did kind of change the game. Just brought a bit of calmness in the middle there. Gil wasn't, as we've said before, having the best of games. There was sparks, but you know what you're going to get for Højbjerg. He's reliable. I think he calms down everyone around him as well because he's just comfortable on the ball. He knows his limitations, but what he does brilliantly. And I think he's been really good this season. And he's coming, he's changed the way he plays, and he can play a bit further up the pitch as well, like he does for Denmark. So, he's got a goal in him, he's got a pass in him. So I just think he's been exactly what you said. I think he's just been professional in everything he's done. He hasn't moaned, he hasn't whinged, he's just got on with it. And I think he's a great option to have. And I don't want to see him go in January. I don't think they can let him go in January, if I'm honest. Next summer, perhaps, depend on where the transfer window's going. Obviously, he nearly went to Atletico Madrid, didn't he? But that fell through. So I'm glad we held on to him. And I think he can still do a really good job for us in there like he did today.
Gareth, let's come to you. Of course, Manchester City took the lead 3-2 in the 81st minute. Haaland assisting Jack Grealish. Bissouma tried to beat players, caught by Rodri. Talk us through that goal. What on earth was Bissouma doing?
Crazy moment of madness, really. I mean, it's part of Bissouma's game where he tries to beat players, but I think in that you've got to play that pass because he done so well. He actually won the ball back, and then he does that. So very frustrating. And I mean, before that, as Jamie sort of didn't say there, but I mean, I felt it 2-2. We were going to win it. I mean, I thought City were on the ropes. I watched the game against Liverpool last week. It was a very similar game where first half City were strong, second half they sat off, let Liverpool into the game. And it's very hard, Chris, when you let a team back into the game and they do score. The momentum was with Spurs. You could see that. Lo Celso shot, as Jamie said, great technique. If that goes in, all of a sudden, bang, Spurs are 3-2 up. But I thought at that point, Spurs had them on the ropes. We looked confident and we really shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, it's not like Spurs, they shoot themselves in the foot, is it? But, and at that point, I was absolutely deflated because I remember I was actually away at the caravan this weekend with a girlfriend, but we were chatting on the way back, and I was saying there that I felt that a lot of my friends were saying Spurs are going to get their pants pulled down today, and I was like, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. And I says to her, what I think will happen is it'll be tight, and we'll shoot ourselves in the foot and lose the game. And at that point, that's what I thought exactly happened, where we played so well in that second half, and I thought we were going to get beat with that silly mistake. But in the end, Chris, we battled back, and that's the main thing. But do I think that's going to change with Bissouma? I don't think so. I think he'll continue to play that way because if you look at a lot of our attacks today, Chris, it does start with a ball coming out from the back. So it will cost you in games, but it'll win you games as well. And I think it's tremendous credit to the players that despite mistakes, despite at times where it looks a bit nervy, they keep trying to play the way they're being asked. And I think that's very, very, very promising for us going forward, because we will only get better, Chris, doing that. As time goes on, you'll see less mistakes and more profit from them situations.
I think you'll get away with some of those things in some games, but not against the likes of Manchester City. And like
it's one of them games where you're up against Rodri. You have to play it against the player. He's the best player at nicking the ball. He's regarded as the best number 6 in world football, and it was a bit naive. But I think at the time that was just because of the game. I think if that's in the first half and we're under pressure, he passes the ball. I think at that time Spurs were on a good moment and they thought we could win this. The confidence was there, and it's probably just game management that needs to improve, because away to Wolves, even though it wasn't a great performance, we probably should have held on for at least a draw, if not won that game. So it's just game management. We've conceded a lot of goals late on in games and at the end of first halves. And that is something that will improve, Chris. I have no doubt going forward. It's just, frustrating at the moment, but you have to look at the bigger picture. We have to learn from the mistakes. You have to make the mistakes first to learn from them. Basically what Jamie said at the third, it's very similar to, because it's complete change from the style of play of Mourinho and Conte. It's almost like training kids. They kick a ball again. They have to make the mistakes. They learn from them.
Jamie, let's come to you. In the 87th minute, of course, Ange Postecoglou made our third sub of the game. Richarlison coming on for Bissouma. Richarlison only a couple of weeks ago had surgery. Before today's game, Postecoglou said he will only last 5 to 10 minutes if required. Are you surprised by the attitude that a manager comes out and says he will only last 5 or 10 minutes? And I also wanted to ask you whether you think that Richarlison will make it at Spurs and become a success, because, of course, he's had quite a difficult time since joining from Everton, not scored that many goals in the Premier League for Spurs.
Yeah, we had this. I think you asked me the same question when I was on before, and we are now several games ahead.
I'm still asking. I ask every game.
I know, and I'm desperate for him too. I really want him to. And when Harry left, you got a £60 million, Brazilian centre forward sitting there, and you're going, go on then, son, go and take your chance, go and take your opportunity. And I've seen games he does huff and puff. He does give it some. Do I think he's what we need? Do I think he's going to end up what we need him to be? I don't think so. And I really want him to, but if I'm totally honest, well, we'll see. I mean, it's hard to judge right now, because he's come out and said that this injury is what's been holding him back, and he's needed this op, and he's needed to, he's been playing through the pain barrier and all of that. So let's see when he's fully healed up. I didn't really see the point of that today, if I'm totally honest. That didn't really show. He's not a talismanic striker that you need to bring on. He's not a Harry Kane where you go, oh look, he's on for 10 minutes and it gives the team a lift. I think it's pointless. I think give him the rest, because what if he goes on and tears something or gets a knock? That's just a waste of time. Well, especially when we've got youngsters and we're prepared to debut youngsters, and I don't see the point in it. So yeah, ask me again next time I'm on, or towards the end of the season. Right now, I'm going to say I want him to. I really do want him to, because I like him. I think he could potentially, but I just don't see it. I think we would have seen it by now. I think we would have had more than the glimpses that we've had of what we need him to be. And so I think it might at some point come to the, we'd have to come to the agreement to part ways, or because again, alone, I don't, it doesn't serve anyone. He's too experienced, he's too long in the tooth, and we need replacements quick. But we'll see how this operation turns out. See how he's healing up from this injury. And if he's been holding him back, maybe if he comes in and hits the ground running, then I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy to see him smashing goals in for Spurs. I really would.
Jamie, just a quick yes or no. If Ange Postecoglou and Spurs were to get a decent offer in the summer for Richarlison, should they take it?
What's a decent offer?
Well, near enough our money back from the Saudi League.
No chance. No chance.
What? No chance we'll get the money?
No chance. I think you'd be lucky to get 40 million from.
No, but if they came in and offered 60 million, Yeah. I think 50 million. I think for that money, you got to cut your losses. I think we've got a couple of decent players in and around. I think we could go and spend that. We've got Harry's money with 50 million. Because we've lost a top world class striker who's getting us 30 odd goals a season. Even in his downtime, he gives you so much more. Richarlison is not. He doesn't do that now. Is he ever going to do that? The answer is no for me.
Jamie, it's an interesting one, though, isn't it? Because during our 14 games, have you heard anyone say we're really missing Harry Kane?
No. I mean, there's been a couple of times that we have, and I think Luton was a great example of that. But no, I haven't. And I think, and that's, it's great. Do we want him? Yeah. I mean, will we have him back? Yeah, of course. But I think everyone is so bought into what Ange's doing. It's almost like our style of football has become our new star player. You know what I mean? It's not. So we've lost Harry. We've gone. That's happened. We've all cried. I still do cry over it a little bit, but I do it more silently now. And I wish him all the best. And I'm so happy to see him doing well and what a top man. And I think he'll come home at some point. I do. I think he'll go over there, win some stuff, hopefully win the Champions League, and then go, I'm going home. And he can come back anyway. But no, I think because we've got such a talismanic manager who's come in and gone, this is how we're playing, and everyone's bought into the style of football, and it sort of united us a little bit. I felt that we've gone right. Okay, come on then. We've had some crap managers that we've not bought into for the last few years. We've lost Harry. We've got nothing to lose. Let's just follow this guy, and it's working out well. That's how I feel. We've all sort of put our arms around each other and gone. It is what it is. He's gone.
Yeah, completely agree. United the fan base, and everyone seems so together amongst that squad, which is great to see.
Stadium's the best it's ever been for me. Well, apart from in the Poch days and the Champions League days, for a long time that stadium is bouncing, absolutely bouncing. The beginnings of those games, the hairs on the back of your neck, standing on end, the atmosphere. As Gareth I think said, we've gone into a Man City game today on a Sunday afternoon with the bare bones of a squad. We're signing up players in the pub around the corner, and yet I'm really excited for it. That's great. That's great. That's what it's about. That's what being Spurs fans about. The expectation and anticipation. That's it.
Craig, let's come to you because, of course, in the 90th minute, Dejan Kulusevski equalised. Whether it was head or whether it was his shoulder, the ball went in the top corner past Ederson. Fantastic feeling. The away end went absolutely mental. Manchester City 3, Tottenham Hotspur 3. What did you make of the goal? What did you make of the cross? What did you make of the finish?
Just brilliant. The cross was superb. As I say, it did remind me, give me Harry Kane vibes the way he nipped in front of the defender there. Don't really see Kulu getting many headers, for his height. It's quite remarkable, actually, that he doesn't get on the end of many crosses, usually because he's putting them in himself. But it was just fantastic. There was a little part of me that thought we were going to get that equaliser, to be honest with you. I was never like, oh, God. Because I think from history, just tell you that we never stop against City, especially. And there's always going to be that opening. And they did leave themselves open at the back there. And I think we got our just reward, especially in the second half. You can argue that we kind of edged the second half. I don't know what the possession stats were in the second half, but I just thought we deserved it in the end. And he was man of the match for me, and that just capped it off. And I just couldn't see him nicking the winner at the end. If anything, I thought, this would be poetic justice if Richarlison bangs him on one comes on, it goes in off his arse or something like that, and we get the win 4-3. You could just see it happening, couldn't you? It would just be so Tottenham. But yeah, fantastic move and a great header or whatever shoulder from Kulusevski. I'll take it. It doesn't matter. We got a point back home and then push on these next few games and hopefully we can start moving up that table again now.
I need to inform you all though. While I was sitting here, because I didn't believe we were going to get the equaliser. I thought it was over. I'm sitting here with my 7-year-old son, and we've got an elf on the shelf that arrives, and he comes every year. He's very naughty, and he's called Tommy Tinsel. So my son went, I think Tommy Tinsel might want to watch the game. And I said, and I quote, we'll go and get him then. Maybe he'll bring us a bit of luck. and he came over and he sat on the sofa with us, and then bang, literally 30 seconds later, we scored the equaliser. So it was only purely down to Tommy Tinsel, the elf on the shelf. So he's now going to be watching every single Spurs game for the rest of the season.
Well, I certainly think you helped us, Jamie, because Gareth, let me come to you on this, because you're a UEFA qualified coach, right? Talk me through this moment, Simon Hooper, because I feel like us Spurs fans and the Tottenham Hotspur team, Postecoglou, got a lot of help here. Erling Haaland was fouled. He played the ball forward. The referee seemed to play advantage and then blew the whistle when a Manchester City player was almost one-on-one with Vicario. What on earth happened there?
Tell you what, Simon Hooper has done us a few favours this season. Tell you what, he might be in the box on Thursday night. He was the referee for the Liverpool game as well. Do you know what? We caught a major break, Chris, because what a pass from Erling Haaland. I mean, how you seen that? I mean, it was incredible. Yeah. And then the only thing I thought of was he must be offside, but then they always let it go on. But he was clearly onside on the replay. And he played that advantage. But then I thought maybe because, Haaland had fallen to the ground, did he just panic and blow the whistle? I just think maybe emotions caught up in the game. And I actually thought he's credited refereed the game brilliantly, let it flow. There wasn't too many stoppages. Unfortunately for him, that's going to be flagged up as a major error because Grealish was one-on-one. And to be totally honest, he is more likely to score than not score. And then the only thing I was worried about then was, he owes Man City. They might get a soft penalty here. And then I seen them checking the VAR. Luckily for us, it was never a penalty, so they were never going to get involved. But I mean, if he had blew the whistle, would VAR had the guts to overturn the referee's decision? That would have been the scary thought. But we definitely caught a major break there. Christie's made an error. It's probably, I mean, they made the error with a Diaz goal. So we've had Simon Hooper's very friendly to Spurs this season. But Chris, we've had some bits of bad luck in the last few games. As you referred to the Villa game with the offside, a couple of them, yes, maybe Sonny should time his run better, but I think the one where Porro hits the post and it comes out and Son puts it in, you can't plan for that type of stuff. And last week against Villa, I mean, I was sitting here last Sunday evening in the house, absolutely deflated because it felt like such a bad defeat because of how well he played. So football has a funny way of swinging and roundabouts. And I remember saying after the Villa game or the Liverpool game, and all Liverpool friends were absolutely furious with the Diaz offside. I says, look, football swings and roundabouts, and Spurs are going to get that bit of bad luck. And they've had serious amounts of bad luck with injuries and hitting the post, crossbar, keeping making saves, not putting chances away. And even the Son goal today, the own goal. I think that's our fifth own goal this season. So we've had a lot of them go against us, and sometimes you just need that wee bit of luck. And luckily for us, he blew the whistle and he couldn't go back on the decision. But I actually referee games as well, Chris, at the weekend sometimes, and I'm telling you, that's a major error, and Howard Webb will chew the bollocks off him.
Well, in the dying seconds of the game, many congratulations to Jamie Donnelly making his competitive debut for Tottenham Hotspur. Well deserved, because he
actually lives an hour. He's actually born an hour away from where I live in Antrim. He's registered. I think he's lived in England for a long time, but he's actually born in Northern Ireland, about an hour from where I live. So brilliant to see. Yeah, brilliant to see. He's been in great form for the under-21s. We've got three other things to cover before we go off. The FA Cup draw, transfer window, and previewing the West Ham game. I'm going to ask you all the same questions here. Jamie, let's start with you. The FA Cup third round draw was made earlier today. Spurs will face Burnley. The game will be played during the weekend of the 6th and 7th of January. The sides have met 9 times in the history of the FA Cup. 5 Spurs wins, 2 draws and 2 defeats. Of course, we beat them in the 1962 FA Cup final. What are your thoughts on the draw? Of course, it is great to get a home draw, but what are your thoughts on the draw? And dare I say it, when the FA Cup final comes around in May 2024, that will be 33 years since Spurs last lifted the FA Cup. I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on the draw and what the FA Cup means to you.
Thoughts on the draw? There's easier games, but there's definitely harder games. I think it's a very, very winnable fixture. I think it's sometimes good to have a test early on in the cup. My thoughts on the FA Cup: I think we've got to throw everything at it this year. I love the FA Cup. I come from a generation where FA Cup final day was everything. It was the coverage began at like 10 in the morning. and I'd get up and I'd watch every single minute of it, and it was the greatest. Other than the World Cup, it was the greatest competition.
Well,
affiliated with the FA Cup, you know, and it's been a long time. And I think if Big Ange could get us to win the FA Cup, I think that is massive. I think it's massive. And I said to you last time I was on here, I'm gonna create some enemies by saying I would substitute a top 4 finish for an FA Cup final win. I would. That day out, getting to Wembley, you know, that cup feels a little bit, you know, there was a time when we won it more than anyone else, and that cup feels a little bit like it's ours and we need it back. So I think he's got to throw everything at this competition. We've got no resting players. No, you know, I know we did it against Fulham in the League Cup and all of that, and I understand. And I thought he was brilliant in his press conference, the way he came out and justified that, in that he's got to have a look at players. He knows his squad now. He knows his players. I think.
Craig, let's come to you on the same question.
Oh, it's on mute.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's there could have been easier draws, but I think there could have definitely been harder ones. It's nice to have a home tie for once. It's a winnable game. I think Burnley are going to be concentrating on staying in the Premier League. I don't think they're going to be going full tongue at the FA Cup, which I think we should. As for what it means to me, I've said on here before, it really is one of my earliest memories of Tottenham Hotspur and of football. That Saturday, having the FA Cup on all day was brilliant. Even though we won it in 81, 82, obviously I remember Ricky Video and everything. The first one I really remember was 85. I think it was Liverpool Everton, and Gary Lineker scored for Everton first, and then Liverpool went on to win it. But it was always a memory of the childhood. FA Cup final day was massive. It was one of the biggest days in the sporting calendar for me. So, and obviously we've got that long history of winning the FA Cup 8 times. We were the record holders at one point. Obviously that's been overtaken now, but we're long overdue winning that FA Cup, and I would just love to see us lifting that trophy again, and seeing Sonny lift the FA Cup at the end of the season would just be absolutely fantastic. No two ways about it.
Well, to put it into context, Gareth wasn't even born the last time we lifted the FA Cup, so it's way overdue. You want to see silverware lifted, don't you, Gareth?
Tell you what, Chris, I've been starved of it. You're the lucky ones. People say to me, you didn't have to live through the awful 90s, but at least they won trophies. They won the Cup in 91. They won the League Cup in 99. I've only seen this. I was born in 97, but I was only a toddler, really, when they won the League Cup in 99. So realistically, the only one I remember is the 2008 League Cup. And for the players that we've had, really, really underperformed. In cups, a lot of finals, semi-finals we've been beaten on. So, Chris, I mean, the draw for me, it's a dream draw. I think Burnley will rest 11. I can see them going with a B team. I think that's going to be Burnley are not going to even think about that. They're on a scrap to stay up. And I would rather play a Burnley second string than a championship team that will come and, you know, they'll see it as an opportunity. I think Burnley will just want the game out of the way, and I think we probably will rotate a wee bit, but I still expect us to go semi-strong. And I think the Fulham game was a big learning curve, not to make as many changes. And I'm sure he'll learn from that. But I think as well with these injuries that we've had, I think he'll trust a lot more of the players now. And the players that come in have had game time. I think that Fulham game was basically their first game of the season, some of them, and they weren't up to speed. And we were punished, weren't we? So I'd imagine we'll get through that pretty comfortably, Chris. With Arsenal drawing Liverpool, you're losing one of the top. Everyone's referring to them as the 3 best teams: Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool. You're losing one of them already. Who knows what are? I often say, Chris, I think the draw wins you the cup. Sometimes, obviously, when it comes to the crunch times, you have to turn up and beat a big team. But you can nearly get to a semi-final without playing a top team. So hopefully we get a few favourable draws, and when the time comes, semi-final, final time, we're there and we're ready. It's imperative we get back into the top 4 too. So I do think we shouldn't just completely focus on the FA Cup. I think there's an opportunity, Chris, this season. If Man City aren't at the races, Gary Neville alluded to it, that after a treble winning season, it's very difficult to get going again. No team's ever won the league 4 times in a row. So I do suspect that there will be a lower points tally in the league this year. And if that is the case, when we get our players back, if we're coming into this Christmas period, you know, within touch and distance, no reason why we can't challenge. And, you know, I would like to see us do that, because I think, you know, next season Man City will be stronger. And regardless of us being stronger next year, I think if City are at it, it's very difficult for anyone else. So a lot to look forward to, Chris, coming up, as you say, with games. So I'm very, very excited. I haven't been this excited for a long time. And, you know, as good as it was under Poch, I think we're playing even better football now. I really do. I think this is going to be a real roller coaster for us over the next, for God knows how many years he's here. But I'm absolutely buzzing with Spurs, and it's just great to see how we're playing and everyone being united. I mean, the games this year I've been at, Chris, unbelievable.
Jamie, let's come to you. We're 28 days away now until the January transfer window opens. Yeah. What do Spurs need to do in the January transfer window? And let me just say, in my opinion, I think that we would have probably let one or two go. But with the amount of injuries that we've got at the moment, I doubt anyone will leave in the window. I don't know whether you agree or not. But what does Spurs need to do as an absolute minimum to really back Ange in order to try and get Champions League football? Because I'm sure that is the end goal for this season.
Yeah. What do you mean? Specific areas that we need to strengthen in? Or... Yeah,
positions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think another defender. I think another central defender would be. You know, we've learned. We should learn our lesson from where we're at now. You know, we shouldn't be in a position where we're playing. You know, those four at the back. So I think Van der Ven has been superb, but we've got to have quality. I think the main thing we can't do, we mustn't do, and I don't think we will, is panic. We've got to bring players in that we're not putting sticky plasters over stuff. You know, We've got to bring players in that are going to build and strengthen. I think probably a striker, but then you're going, that depends on the Richarlison thing. I think probably if I was going to be looking at it, I think the way we're going to play, I think probably defensively is where we need to, you know, if we're going to go in and buy a couple of one or two players, I think definitely defensively, a centre half, maybe a fullback, because I think we've got good options, half decent options, possibly maybe a wider midfield player. But for me, my priority for me would be a centre half. If I had to pick one position where we go, right, we need a player, I think we dodged the bullet today, and I think going in and strengthening in that central position. I don't know where Dyer is going to end up. I don't know what's going to happen with him, but I think for me a centre half.
Craig, same question to you about the transfer window, because I think it's fair to say that when we have our full strength starting 11, that is a decent team. It is all about the depth. The bench, when you look at the bench today, it doesn't look very strong compared to someone like Manchester City, certainly, or another, top Premier League side. So is it all about strengthening on the bench for players to come in when we do have such problems with injuries?
I think the ideal thing is, and I'll keep this short because I've got to drop off in a little while, but I think the ideal scenario would be to have a squad of players that can come in, and when they come in, it's seamless. And we're not quite there yet. So for me, if you're asking what I would ideally want, and this is not what I think we will get, but I'd love another couple of top quality centre backs and a centre forward or somebody that can play along that front line, but certainly somebody that can replace Son, somebody that can do what Son does, put the ball in the back of the net. So those are the three positions. If we've got our full midfield fit, remember we got Sessegnon as well, even though he hasn't really done what we all hoped he would do. I think we're pretty stacked in the middle of the park once everybody's fit. So for me, definitely at least one centre back and a striker. That's what I think we need, and that's what I think would really strengthen the squad. And then you can look at moving players out. Like you, Chris, I don't think we'll let many people go at all. Possibly Brian Gill if we get somebody in, but we're light on that in that centre back department. And I think Eric Dyer is going to stay around till the end of the season when his contract expires. So, and Ben Davies, I don't think will be going anywhere. So, but ideally for me, two centre backs, although I think we'll get one definitely, and one striker.
Very last question for you all. Of course, our next Premier League game takes place Thursday night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against London rivals West Ham. Gareth, let's start with you. Very simply, do you think Ange Postecoglou will change the starting 11? And what's your score prediction?
I think Højbjerg will come in for Brian Hill now. I think that's Romero will come back, and he's obviously has suspensions up. So I think Romero will come in, Højbjerg will come in, Kulusevski will go back onto that right-hand side, and we'll have that front three of Kulusevski, Son, and Johnson. Look, West Ham are going to be very compact. They're not going to open up. We know what David Moyes' West Ham teams do. So it's about being patient, taking our chances. If we can get an early goal, Chris, I think we'll be comfortable. This game's going to be so different to Man City. Whereas I think today we were pretty clinical. If we're as clinical as we are on Thursday, I think we'll wipe the floor with West Ham. I think it's only a matter of time, Chris, before we do absolutely smash somebody 4 or 5-0, because we're creating the chances. So, well, that's West Ham. I don't think so. I think they'll be pretty compact and make it difficult. Chris, as long as I've already said this season, you know, it's because it's his first season. Of course, I only won games, but I'm more interested in the style of play, improvement of players, how we're getting on, and winning obviously is key. But I have every confidence we'll beat West Ham. Chris, I actually think we'll win every game between now and the new year. I think we'll win them all. I think we're getting players back as well. Romero's back. Richarlison will give us more depth. I'm not his biggest fan, but I do think it gives us something different. You know, if we can upgrade on him at the end of the season, you know, if we can get him out and get somebody on better, happy days. If not, I think he's a decent backup. So no, I think that result today will it takes the pressure off on Thursday night, because if we had got into that game having lost 4 in a row, and say for some reason we battered West Ham and didn't win, or lost, for example, all of a sudden we've lost 5 in a row. I think that breaks the duck now, and I expect the result. I expect us to start picking up points, and I do think we will. It's going to be a good end of the year. So score prediction, Chris, 3-1 Spurs.
Yeah, as you said, it would be great to have Romero back. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. Jamie, what are you going to go for?
Yeah, I sort of agree with Gareth there. I think the same changes will be made. I think Højbjerg, I think Brian Hill will step aside. Romero will and has to come in. Yeah, I don't think they'll live with us. I'll be honest with you. I don't think they'll live with our attacking, our pressure. I think we can apply that pressure that we've applied in the right areas that we did today. We rode our luck a bit. Kulusevski, if he's at it like that, I don't think West Ham will live with it. So I'm gonna go for a 3-0. I'm gonna go 3-0 Spurs. Yeah, I don't think they'll score either.
Craig, what are you going to go for?
Good. I'm going to be very quick because my dinner's just arrived. So I think we're going to win 3-1. I think we're going to steamroll. I always said that I think we'll steamroll some team, and I'd just love to steamroll West Ham. I don't think they're Antonio playing. I know Bowen's back, but Antonio, I think, is still injured, and he's always been a pain in our side. So I'm going to say 3-1 Tottenham. I think West Ham will score, but I think we'll get the job done, and hopefully it will be a convincing win, because we owe them one West Ham. I don't particularly like us playing West Ham. They've always been one of those, the first team to win at the stadium. So I think we owe them one back. So 3-1 Tottenham.
Well, Craig, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Where can people find you on social media, and what are you up to at the moment?
I'm just watching Spurs and getting ready for Christmas like everybody else. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at DM9. That'd be lovely. And just a little plug for Jonesy. Matt just give me this lovely shirt, this Bale 11. If you want to get a shirt like this, they are brilliant. I think he's on Instagram. I think he's _starting_XI, and you can order your t-shirts on there. We'll make one up. They're really good quality, really wash up well. I love this one, so thanks, Matt. And see you all again soon. I think I'm on against Everton later on in the month near Christmas. So let's hope for a bit of Christmas cheer then.
Just talking about those t-shirts, we're actually unbeaten when Ricky Norwood wears them, when I wear them, and when you wear them, Craig. So I think we should all get one. Gareth, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
What are you up to at the moment? Where can people find you?
You can find me on the at Gareth Hotspurs. Doing obviously lots of podcasts. Doing my own podcast, 12-man podcast in Ireland. A lot of rival fans come on. It's great we have a big game. We get opposite fans on from around the town, and we do a preview show. We look at all the Premier League games. Obviously, there's not a great appetite for Spurs in Ireland, so it has to be very balanced. So we talk about all the Premier League football. And I'm actually on Holly's podcast next Sunday, I think, after the Newcastle game. So I'll be on hers at times as well. So you'll find me on loads of Spurs content. I'll obviously be on yours too, Chris. So great podcast as always. Thanks for having me on. I was delighted to come on after a Man City game because I've got a really bad record, Chris, on your channel for some reason. So
I know.
Maybe that was down to previous coaches. But good to be back on after a good result away at City. And hopefully now we can pick up the points, and I'm looking forward to going to Bournemouth on New Year's Eve. So delighted. Up the Spurs, and we go marching on.
Well, thank you, Gareth. And Jamie, you've got an unbeaten record on this podcast, so you can keep coming.
Well, although I haven't won yet. This is two appearances, 2 draws. So hopefully next time it'll be a victory. I'm back on, I think, on the 28th. Yeah, so fingers crossed.
Jamie, what's next for you?
I got again. I can now tell you what I've just announced, but I can't tell you what else is coming up because I'm just always shrouded in NDAs. I'm not allowed to actually disclose anything. But it's the first year actually in several years I've been at home for Christmas. So I'm just I've got some gigs and I'm comparing and hosting a couple of events over Christmas, and then I'm starting to film something in the new year, which is exciting. So. And then, yeah, as I said, I made my announcement yesterday. They released it in the press. So I can say that, you know, House of the Dragon is happening. It's real. I'm in it. Well, it's not real. But yeah, it's there. I was in Variety magazine this morning. I mean, a working class oik turning up and waking up on a Sunday morning to find my name in Variety magazine was pretty special. So yeah, it's going to be a nice Christmas.
Jamie, good luck with that second season. I mean, I absolutely loved the first season. Can't wait for the second season. So best of luck to you. Great show.
Yeah, no, it's all, you're going to love it, mate. You're going to absolutely love it. It's yeah, I can't say too much, but it's going to be worth the wait. I promise you.
Well, Jamie, Craig, Gareth, thanks so much for joining us this evening to talk about Tottenham's draw at the Etihad Stadium. Of course, we look forward to perhaps getting back to winning ways on Thursday evening against West Ham. We will see you then. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.